Hi, I'm Dr. Lori. I've got your videos. Thanks for sending them. I'm going to show you how to buy, sell, and thrift. And all these values are based on actual sales records.
Dr. Lori, I inherited this oil lamp from my mother. It seems to be brass with this ball globe. It does have a wick inside. It seems to be about 3 or 4 pounds. And it's wood base, nothing on the bottom. But the etching is on all 4 sides. If you could possibly tell me what that might be, I'd appreciate it.
Hello, Treon. Thank you very much for sending your video in. I hope I can help you identify your piece and tell you a little bit about its value with an appraisal. A couple of things that are happening here. I like the background of your house. It looks like you really love antiques. A couple of things that are happening with your particular piece. Yes, it's brass, and you have a base, and then you have brass, and then you have the knob and the wick, and that knob will actually let the wick go up, and then you can light, of course, the wick. The font, or the middle piece of your oil lamp, actually is what holds the fuel source, right? Because it's a lamp, and it has a fuel source that allows the light to actually flicker. And then you have what's called a globe, right? A hurricane globe. So that particular hurricane is in the shape of a globe. So from top to bottom, you have a relatively rare style of hurricane, that globe style. People like it and they look for them. Some people sell your lamps for parts, you know, just like a Chevrolet. They sell them for parts. So that globe hurricane actually has an awful lot of value. So don't break it. You know, you were moving that thing around in the video like, oh, I can just move this around. Be careful. The other thing is, on the little knob of the brass font, there may be a maker's name or a mark. It might be B&H, Buell and Howell. It might be an Aladdin, any litany little mark. So you might be able to find a mark there. If there is not a mark there, I think your mark was on the base, and when they attached it to the base, the mark then got, of course, obstructed. You can't see it. It's invisible now. The other thing that you have on that particular lamp, on that oil lamp, it dates to about the time after the Civil War. So let's say 1865 to about 1875, sometime in that Reconstruction period. Why? The motif. The motif is a horn of plenty, and after the Civil War, we are celebrating the fact that we have, of course, prosperity, and we're moving forward after a terrible war. So that's basically what you're seeing in the base of your oil lamp. Value on your oil lamp? Your oil lamp has a market value of about $600. It's a rare type, and typically they would come in pairs. So I'm hoping that your sister has the other one. Thanks so much.
Hi, Dr. Lori. I'm Beverly from Pittsburgh. We love to see you every year at the home show, and I have an item to show you. This is a pearl cross that was worn by my great-great-great-aunt, Emma Beverly Randolph, given to her by her husband on their wedding day, and that was in 1855. It was given to me by my grandmother, and I have a list of brides who have worn it since then. So I'm interested to know what you think about it. Thanks, Dr. Lori.
Hi, Beverly from Pittsburgh. Thanks for sending in your video. I really liked your piece. A couple of things about your piece. Of course, your piece is a wedding necklace. It's a pearl cross and typically worn at weddings. And you said that in 1855, your relative also wore it at her wedding, and others in your family have worn it in their weddings. And that's exactly what, you know, vintage and antique jewelry is really intended for. So first of all, it's pearls. Then it's a lot of pearls, about 20 to 24 inches long from what I could tell from your video. And then it also has a gold period class, which means, you know, the amount of gold carat weight is typical of that mid 1800s period, right? And then you also had a great example in very good condition of the piece itself with the cross, which is all embellished with, of course, pearls. So a couple things are happening here. You know, over the years, I've appraised all kinds of wedding objects. Oh gosh, things like souvenir programs from the wedding of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip from 1947, or engagement rings. You know, I always love it when people go, Dr. Lori, will you appraise my engagement ring? You know, and your fiance is standing right there and he's just like, oh gosh, please don't appraise the engagement ring. You know, you could never spend enough on an engagement ring. I've had those things. I've even had a couple get engaged at one of my public events, one of the Antique Appraisal Comedy Tours. A couple came in and they actually got engaged at my event. That was a lot of fun, something unusual. unusual. But anyway, so when it comes to different types of wedding paraphernalia or antique wedding objects, there's a lot of things happening. First of all, symbolism. Symbolism is extremely important throughout weddings. Things like bells. You know, bells relate to that idea with weddings that you're going to scare away any evil spirits, you know, if you make a lot of noise. Flowers are another thing that are trying to get rid of evil spirits or bad luck at a wedding. Smells, actually the first flowers were really not flowers at all. They were cloves of garlic that the bride would wear around her neck. So basically the idea of flowers or smells would also get rid of evil spirits. So your particular necklace, the cross with pearls, relates to a couple of things. It relates, in fact, to the idea of roundness. Roundness like the Alpha and the Omega, or an everlasting type of love, and that's the roundness of the pearls. The white of the pearls is symbolic of that idea of purity, assuming that the bride is pure. In the old days, of course, that was quite important. So those kinds of things are what you're looking at your necklace. You said your necklace was worn, you know, through the family, and you could date it back to about 1855. That particular necklace is a mid-19th century style. You see that same style up until about the early part of the 20th century, the early 1900s. And your particular necklace, Beverly, and I know it's really, really valuable to you, but in monetary terms, it's worth about $3,000. It's a great one. Thanks for your video.
Well, I picked up this oil on canvas painting at Goodwill for $4. I believe it's by Shirley Newell. There's a signature there, and it's in very good condition. Would love to know what these are appraising for.
Hi Laura, I love thrift store finds. I love them. I love the bargains. I love when you can identify something. I love it when you can find something that's worth a lot of money and you only paid a little. And your particular piece that you bought, the Shirley Newell painting in a frame for $4, $4, 1, 2, 3, 4, is really a great thrift store find. However, when I look at this, I think of starving artist paintings. And starving artist paintings, you know, while Newell had a particular type and a particular style that some people really liked, I can see that rote sort of rhythmic pattern over and over again, painting the same type of thing in her work. So don't mean to be critical, but sometimes you got to be critical. Even famous artists got to take a little bit of criticism. So the thing about this piece is she's probably making these pretty quickly, right? Now, it's still a good bargain for $4 any way you look at it, but this particular piece is pretty rote, typical, what we see all the time by this particular artist. Again, dates to the latter part of the 19th century, dates to the latter part of the 20th century, and value on it about $150. Now, for a $4 investment, $150 any way you slice it is great. But what I want you to look at is I want you to try to identify paintings that are a little bit better in the skill department, okay? Nice piece, not hurting anybody for $4, but if you had to pay $75 for it, I'd probably say put that $75 towards something a little bit better. Thanks a lot for your video.
My name is Pat. I have a Sioux beaded ball in my hand. I acquired this at an antique mall. Approximately maybe 100 years old, not sure. If you can help me out with more information, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, Pat. Thank you so much for sending that video. I loved it that you were outside. You know, you had your shot all set up, you know, like a cinematographer you are. So thank you very much for your nice video. And I liked your piece a lot. You know, I looked at your piece, and most people would look at this piece and say, well, it just looks like a beaded ball to me, Dr. Laurie, you know. That particular piece is a Native American piece, and the first things you look at when you're evaluating beadwork of the Native Americans is you try to figure out which Native American peoples, we also use the word tribe, but we have to be careful about which words we use, so which Native American peoples are in fact being utilized or made that particular piece. So which Native American peoples made this piece is the first question you ask. Some of the ways to tell, right, would be the color, the style of the beadwork, and the different patterns of the beadwork. So certain Native American peoples are known for the chevron, right, beadwork. Some of them are known for bright green beads. Some of them are known for white beads. Some of them are known for the cross pattern, all different. So these are some of the things you want to look for when you're looking at Native American pieces. So when I looked at your piece, I thought, oh, okay, that's a beaded ball. It doesn't have anything to do with an initiation rites ceremony. It's not some shaman piece that's so important. It's basically a ball, like anybody else would have a toy ball. That's what it is. And it's a lovely piece, and it's in beautiful condition, and I'm shocked that you just found it, right? The discoveries are really great. You're all finding bargains and really good pieces, and I'm really happy that you saved it. You rescued it. You know how we rescue pets? Well, you're rescuing antiques. This particular piece is really quite nice, and it is, in fact, in very good condition. The colors of it relate it to the Sioux people. So when you're looking at it, you're looking at the Plain States, right? Those particular Native Americans that lived in the Plain States. And the Sioux have that green color and that kind of patterning that you see in the beadwork of this piece. So there's your identification. That's why you came here, right? There's your identification, and value on it, about $275. Good for you. Thanks, Pat.
Hi, Dr. Lori. This is my find. I've had it in my possession for 40 years. And my previous husband brought it home one time. I have no idea where he bought it or how much he paid. It's a gun and a sterling silver handle. It was recently unarmed by a professional gunsmith, and I'd like to know some information on it. Thank you.
Hi, Susan. Susan, if you didn't grow up where I grew up, I'm not fat. Because I got to tell you, when I heard you, I thought, oh, that's home. So I bet you grew up near where I grew up. Anyway, thank you very much for your video. And I want to tell you a little bit about your silver crook, right, like a shepherd's crook cane. Inside your cane is something called a breech-loaded gun. And that particular cane is not so unusual. You know, there are a lot of things hidden in canes. I've seen a lot of antique canes that have something hidden inside, rapier swords, and I've seen flasks so you can, you know, put liquor inside the cane, hide it. I've also seen things like maps that were actually within canes. Canes are a really good hiding place. Your piece is a cane, not a walking stick. A walking stick has like a bulb on the top. Your particular cane is one that dates to the 19th century, and the silver crook gives it value as well. Most of the value for your cane, of course, is in the gun, right? The breech load gun, which is relatively rare and unusual. But your piece also is in beautiful condition, amazing condition. So when you think about that particular piece, I want you to, of course, be careful. I know that you said that you had a professional actually disarm the gun. That's always a good idea, unless you need to use the gun for some reason, I don't know. And value on your piece, about $1,500. It's a wonderful example. I also liked your video because you and your outfit matched your surroundings. It was really monochromatic and black and white. Thanks, Susan. Nice to see somebody from home.
Hello, Dr. Lurie. My name is Linda Murphy. I have this exquisite peacock from an antique store in Asbury Park, New Jersey. I live in Howell, New Jersey. It appears to be a censer. I'm looking for more information about it and wanting to know if I can retire. I guess I should be more careful. It appears to be a censer, and I guess I shouldn't pick it up by its neck. Thank you.
Hi, Linda from New Jersey. How are you doing? So thanks a lot for your video. I looked at your video, and you know, you don't see one of these all the time. They're not your typical, you know, New Jersey collectible, you know, like a John Bon Jovi album or, you know, something that relates to, of course, I don't know, the Jets or something. But basically what you're looking at here is a 19th century Chinese peacock censer. So now, I don't know whatever possessed you to buy this at the antique store, but maybe you liked it or you needed a bird element on your bookcase. I don't know. But it's a relatively interesting piece. It's not something that you see every day. So that particular piece is bronze. So it is actually cast. And you showed me in the video how it comes apart, right? So it comes apart because it's a functional object that's being utilized, being used all the time. That particular piece represents the peacock, and the peacock has many great connotations in Asian culture. So that particular piece dates to the 1800s, and earlier ones date all the way back into the 1400s. Value on yours, about $1,500. I am pretty sure you didn't pay $1,500 for it when you bought it at that antique shop. And if you did, then you paid too much. Today, it's worth about $1,500. Good for you.
Hi, Dr. Lori. It's Robert and Katarina Forsman. We'd love to share our spring cleaning thrift store find we found in Arizona. We don't know what it is. It's a beautiful painting. We believe it's mid-century because of the frame. Katarina's going to film the 7 out of 20 print run here, the name that we think it is. It looks like it's in Spanish, and then the signature is a little ineligible, but we thought maybe you could give us some help with it. We love your shows, appreciate all your hard work, and thank you for helping us out. Have a great spring.
Hello to Rob and Katarina. Thank you very much for working together to get this example of this color serigraph to me on your video. I appreciate that. You know, a couple of things happen when I see objects, and a lot of people are trying to get in here. You know, it's really a couple of things that I want you to learn and understand. First of all, you said you know nothing about this, but you know it's a color print of some sort. You thought maybe it was a painting, you weren't really sure. The things that you knew about it, you know, you probably just didn't get over that hump to understand really what you had. So a couple of things. I looked at this piece and my first thought was R.C. Gorman. And if any of you know who R.C. Gorman is, he's a very well-known Native American Southwestern artist, okay? And R.C. Gorman, it looks kind of like his work, but it's just not R.C. Gorman. Just that knowing what it's not can help you. I used to tell my students all the time when I was teaching art history, you know what? Education doesn't have to be pretty. You just have to get to the right answer. How you get there doesn't really matter. We just need you to get there. So this idea of getting to the right answer might be making mistakes along the way, because that information about other artists might bring you to your artist. So I knew it was a Southwestern artist, right? I actually knew the artist, which, you know, they scribble their name and you're going, I can't read that. Okay, so that becomes a little bit problematic. But basically a couple of hints for those of you who are trying to do research and identification. Here's what I want you to do. First of all, signatures. Take a darn pen and a piece of paper and try to basically write the signature that you're looking at. See if you can actually make out those letters, right? As you're doing that, your brain will tell your hand actually which letter is which and how they go into one another. So if you try to mimic it, you might go, oh, that's a V, even though it looks like a W. You know, these kinds of things happen when you physically do it. I used to tell my students, don't use those highlighter pens, write it down, because your brain will make the connections. Highlighter pens don't do anything for you. It's the same thing. You can look at it for hours and hours on end. You're not going to get that signature until you try to write it. That's first. Second of all, try to figure out what it's not. Oh, okay, well, it's not a Monet. Well, it's not a Picasso. Well, it's not a... Figure out what it's not. That will bring you to those things that it may be. Right? So R.C. Gorman was the first thing. I knew it wasn't R.C. Gorman, but I'm like, oh, you know what? It's one of those Native American folks. And then you had a Hispanic element to it as well. So now it's not the Native Americans in Seattle, right, in the Pacific Northwest. It's the Native Americans closer to, of course, places like Texas, Arizona, and of course, New Mexico. So now you've just narrowed down the United States and many of the artists working in this time period. It's a serigraph because you can see the overlapping of the colors on the piece, and you can also see how the figures are also mountains. Very, very typical of the work of New Mexico and Arizona artists like this one. Your piece is worth $500. It is a color serigraph by Armando Murillo Pena Jr., who was born in 1943. That's the signature down at the bottom, and I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about your work. Thanks for your video, guys.
Hi, Dr. Lori. Nyla Neffler from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I have this excellent painting that's an actual watercolor that I inherited from my uncle. He was lovers with the artist Mel Stauffer.
Hi, Nyla. Nyla's one of my biggest fans. She's so sweet. She comes to see me every time. I've gotten dinner invitations from Nyla and all kinds of things. It's very nice of you to send in a video too, so it's good that I got to meet you. A couple of things that I want to talk about with respect to your piece. Your piece is a Mel Stauffer. Mel Stauffer is a relatively well-known artist, was well-known in much of the East Coast, but also in Sarasota, Florida. And you had a family connection to the artist. But what he's doing is something really typical of American art in the middle part of the 1900s. And they are sometimes considered by art historians tricks or visual devices. One of them is that diagonal line that shows that path near that railroad station. That diagonal line is moving your eye right into the composition, and just like a railroad car on tracks, it's moving it back and forth and back and forth. And your eye just goes up and down and up and down, and it kind of stays there because the whole composition is really one-sided, only on the left side. I talk to you about these kinds of things so you can understand what artists are doing, how they're solving the problems of making art, in this case, a watercolor. So that's why I kind of point out these lines or these forms or why the tree looks like that or those types of things, because as you understand that more and more, you're able to be a little bit more critical of art, not as critical as I am, but critical. And basically, you're also going to learn a little bit more about what you should look for in a good work of art versus a crappy work of art. And there are crappy works of art in museums all over the place. So don't think just because it's in a museum, it's a great work of art, because it's not. Value on your piece, about $500. The provenance does impact value. That family connection impacts value. And of course, keeping it out of direct sunlight on an interior wall and framed to protect the artwork, all very important. Thanks so much, hon. Big thanks from Dr. Lori. I appreciate you sending in your videos. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Just ring the bell. There are more videos to come.